something we all need. Gotta have it now if you wanna succeed. Striving, surviving, that's no doubt. Sticking together, we gon' find a way out. So all you young people, give it your all. So all you young people, give it your all. So all you young people, give it your all. So all you young people, give it your all.
Good afternoon, the back community. Thank you as always for staying involved. Thank you for staying engaged. Tonight we have one of Albany's own, or this afternoon we have one of Albany's own who moved away for a while, but it is back and is back in full force, and with great ambition and a great vision for the Capital Region area. I could not wait to get you on. I had two people in mind, even when I was still doing season 3, you and Trayvon, that I knew I wanted to open up season 4 with, because I've heard nothing but great things about today's guest. Without further ado, I want to formally introduce you to the back community and thank you for being on. Deshanna C. Wiggins, she's the CEO of the Albany Black Chamber of Commerce and Social Club. And I'm extremely excited to have you on the platform. I'm extremely excited to hear about all that you've been doing because, like I said, it's been nothing but great things. So thank you for being on the back community.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm really excited.
All right, all right. And I alluded to it. Actually, no, I'm not even going to start there. First things first, I'm going to hit you with my formal question that I ask everybody because I believe that no one can give an introduction for ourselves like ourselves. So my first official question for you, D, is here's your opportunity to tell the back community more about you. Please let us know where you're from and what it is that you do.
Oh, okay. You're right. There is no introduction like yourself until you're put on Front Street to give it, right? So I am Deshanna, a girl from Albany, a girl who is a proud native of Albany, New York, who honestly have always had my sights on coming back to my area to add value and impact. However, if you ask me that at the ripe age of 14, I was out here. I was out of here, with the exception of coming to see my very large family who still resides here. I had no intention on that until I had a guidance counselor, and this kind of will be the introduction in telling you why I feel this way and why I've chosen this work. But I had a guidance counselor who was very dear to me, who, when I expressed that, when she was asking about colleges, and she said, well, you don't have anything local. And I said, I will never have anything local. I'm out of here. And so at that time, not really understanding and the value of the wealth of talent that existed here, just being blinded by, what you saw, unfortunately, on a day-to-day basis in the larger community, or what you saw, on television. But a guidance counselor had reminded me, she said, if you want things to be different in this neighborhood, you're going to have to do it, right? No one's going to know but you, the way that you do. No one's going to understand the way that you will. And so if you want things to change, you got to stick around and change it. And so that kind of affected me. It kind of affected me for a while because, when something affects me to that level, I know that it's something I need to take heed to, right? And so while it did not dissuade me from leaving for college, it was one of those things that stood in the back of my mind, especially, just seeing the evolution of the area, coming back home for those breaks from college and seeing what was missing, what, was no longer accessible to the community, and how much the investment was going elsewhere instead of, I think, what could have shaped, our community on a larger scale. And so, that was one of the things where I think kind of permeated and stuck with me. And I knew that while I did not necessarily want to put a cape on and, try to save the community, I didn't feel like that was my plight. But I knew that I had a strong voice And if I could be in the rooms where these decisions were being made and can speak to specifically, what needed to happen or should happen, that I wanted to figure that out. And so when this opportunity came about, I was really excited because it spoke to not just my professional, outlook, but certainly my personal mission of making sure Black businesses were enterprise, but more importantly, the platform of Black people was showcased in its totality. And so that's, something that has always been on my heart. I had the privilege of attending a historically Black college and university, Clark. Yes, Clark Atlanta, part of the Atlanta University Center, which sat across from Morehouse College and Spelman College and Morris Brown. And so after that, I worked under 3 different Black mayoral administrations, Mayor Kasim Reed, Mayor Andre Dickens, and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. And so, and then before I came here, worked under a Black female judge. And so for me, my entire, I had the privilege of having different work environment, right? Code switching was something I did not have to, be as cognizant of. I could be who I was and how much of that and be embraced. And be utilized. And so I've always kind of worked with that standard and that mode of operation. And so it served me. And so, I've always just wanted to bring that back with me. I had to stay a while to learn who I needed to become in order to be able to handle this responsibility is how I see it, but be able to give platform to the talent that is in this region. And elevate the region as the true capital of the New York State. So that, in a nutshell, is quite a lengthy introduction.
I like it.
I'm a girl from upstate. I'm a true upstate girl. I was born in Geneva, which is between Rochester and Syracuse. And then moved here to Albany area at the age of 2 and stayed until I left for college. And so I feel like my, full circle moment is now, and that I get to come back and give back to the community that gave so much to me.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you get to come back authentically as yourself. One of the things that you did mention was about code switching, and you're just saying you have uniquely been positioned to not have to battle with that as much. You've been in organizations and administrations that welcome you, that see you and understand you. And that's one of the things that, I stand on. I think that you should authentically be yourself. And I also have learned that, it's our experiences that become our superpowers, right? And it sounds like you have authentically allowed your experience to be your superpower, which has landed you right to where you are right now as the CEO of the Albany Black Chamber of Commerce. And it's a huge part. And a lot of us, especially in the inner city, we think that you got to change yourself in order to be successful. And what I've learned over time is that you don't. You may have to change certain elements of yourself or add on to who you are at the core. But if you can keep your authenticity intact too, you're more comfortable looking in the mirror with yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's not even like a change, really. It's really just understanding how culturally people get along and understand. It's just more knowledge, right? I always say that, if you're in an environment where you kind of feel like, ooh, I am too much or whatever the case may be, just kind of listen, right? Listen to the conversation that's being had, kind of draw from that. And then you will always know the right time to insert and to be able to, show your authentic self. And yeah, so it's always a learning curve.
Okay. Well, I'm going to pretend that my listeners don't know anything about the Albany Black Chamber of Commerce. So please educate us in regards to what the chamber does. When was it established? I know we got a new home operation base. So let us know a little bit more about the relevancy of the Albany Black Chamber of Commerce and what it is that the chamber does for its members.
Absolutely. Well, the Albany Black Chamber of Commerce works like any other city or county chamber in terms of being like a business association. So we're a membership organization, and the whole idea of a chamber is to be able to put you in contact with other local businesses and also be able to give you access and access to resources for on a national or maybe even global platform. And so what my desire here to do with the Albany Black Chamber of Commerce and Social Club, be it that we're in the Historic University Social Club, I wanted to make sure we kept that footprint of the building and how we did our programming, because in this particular area, there are a lot of cultural clubs, right? The Jewish club, the Italian
Orange Club.
for orange clubs. There's been a lot of different, every VFW post, right? You can think about them, in the footprints of our community. And so there had never been any type of executive or professional club that I had heard of for people of color, with the exception of church organizations or Greek organizations. I didn't really hear, and even they were looking for spaces to be. And so I wanted to make sure that in building out the chamber, we also kept the footprint of the building and built that community as well. What we know is that our community, we can't move to business if we don't feel like we have a grapple on who you are and what you represent. And so being able to provide a space for you to authentically and genuinely get to know each other, and have communication, is a very good and smooth transition into you doing business together. We don't know you, we don't trust you, we're so, I wanted to make sure that we kept that as a focal point as we are building the chamber. But what I love is that the Chamber of Commerce is just not exclusive to businesses of color, although that is our target and wanting to make sure they're matched with resources appropriately. We want to give platform for all businesses in this region. I think what we have to accept and realize is that we have to be resource sharers. We have to allow other businesses who have the access that we may not have to integrate and to be able to learn what we don't know, and give direct access to each other. And so I want to make sure that local businesses that may not necessarily have a large body of employees that are of color or get the direct access that they need, right? When they're building out their programming, when they're looking for workforce, they have a direct tunnel to what's happening. And so beyond that, the chamber is here to just make sure that we are meeting these business organizations where they are, whether you are a nonprofit and a startup to a small business up to corporations. We want to be able to offer a membership level to you that will be able to meet you where you are and get you to that next step. Technical assistance is really major for us. We want to make sure that instead of reinventing the wheel, we're giving a platform to the organizations that already exist to be able to offer their services directly. So case in point, the Community Loan Fund, I've had conversations with them, and they have awesome programs already for our local businesses. But a lot of times they're not able to get directly to their target. And so having a platform like we have will give them dedicated space here so that they're able to meet the chamber members where they are. We create, the environment. They're met with the information, and we can kind of recreate that with other organizations, as well as building a dynamic team of players who are directly connected to the community, the corporate community here at large, and on a national level. But I have always said I am a think national, think global person, but target local. I know that a part of building what is here is being able to get those who are already existing in business elsewhere to this area to see the treasure chest it really is to invest into, to build their business out of. And then also that is a direct way I can get expert and global leaders to my target audience, right? So, they can see what they otherwise wouldn't, right? You can't be what you don't see. And so I want to make sure that on a local, national, and global level, we're bringing all of those resources here and giving our local business platforms. So again, I have these very long-winded answers. I do hope that hit that, but the chamber for me is not just a kind of a one trick thing. I think we have to address many things in order to get to our ultimate goal. And for me, that ultimate goal is 100 Black owned businesses grossing $100 million or more. And I think, and that still is only a tip of the iceberg. I got that, data and talking to my friend Joaquin Hope, who is the CEO of the organization, who invested in our headquarters here at the University Center. And so in talking with him, he's like, that's, and when you think about that number, sounds like a lot, but it's still just a tip of the iceberg when you know that $64 billion comes into this region on an annual basis. And so we've got to, shift where these resources are going. We also have to shift who are a part of giving those resources. And so if can meet these businesses wherever they are and are able to scale them up and introducing them to those ways, whether it's a merger or acquisition or whether it's through, an internship that you got here and 10 years later, now you've decided to plant your roots here and build, your business here. I mean, there's just so many ways we get to that. And so it's not an either or thing. This organization is trying to do both and.
Okay. And it's very important too, because not only do you need the infrastructure, right? You like I said, you need the resources, you need a place where you can build viable relationships, but also just for the city. And this is one thing I know I spoke to the mayor about before, and Corey, but like safety. Like when you talk about businesses and people bringing in establishments and their businesses, one of the main focuses has always been like safety for themselves, safety for the people who are coming to frequent their businesses. And that's always been a huge part of maintaining and keeping people in the area. And one of the things that I love about where you guys are centrally located, and I'm gonna let you give the formal address so everyone knows exactly where you are and how to find you guys. But whenever I come back, I always love driving up Central Avenue just to see the sign now, because like you said, there's always been social clubs, there's always been places, but never really a place that was designated for us. And I mentioned the Fort Orange Club because I spent a lot of time up over there. One of the guys who was very influential with me when I was coming out of high school.
Nice.
He would always bring me over there, and I spoke at the Fort Orange Club plenty of times, but he would always bring me there. But now when I go there, I don't look to the left coming up, Washington Avenue. Now I look over here to the right. You guys are centrally located right next to what is the name of the place, the art spot right on the street?
Albany History Institute of Art.
Okay, and it's important for us to see it. It's important for us to see people like you running it. It's important to understand that we have people that we can trust. And it's exciting to see what you guys have done already in a small period of time since its opening and its inception, and what the overall vision really is.
Absolutely.
But,
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell the story often about this full circle moment. So I grew up on the block directly behind this building, which is Elk Street. Grew up on Elk Street between North Lake and Quail. My father's an educator. My mother worked for the school district. So I was a true, school district baby. So I got to see, the city at, the kind of the macro vision from the perspective of parents who were in the district dealing with, the youth every day. And I was a part of an after school program right here at the library. And I tell this story because it's really one of those moments where you sit and be like, okay, I think I'm supposed to do this. But I used to walk past this building every single day. One, because I was enamored with the buildings. I love architecture. I actually had a small business in interior design for some time. And so I love to just look at the buildings and, the state education building, I just loved it. So I would always go off the beaten path a little past the library. But every time I came back, this place always kind of just stood out. And it always looked like very important white men, right, going in and out. I never saw anyone go in it or come out of that looked like me. And it always gave me that self-conscious of like, there's still spaces where I don't belong, right? No matter, and just, without knowing or having any intimate connection to this building at the time, I literally remember, the institute was there as well. And I was like, oh, you can't do, this is not the public, art gathering, right? Like, you need to be a member. And if I just walked in there, they're going to know I don't belong, right? If I walked into this building, it's going to be like, oh, you're not supposed to, and so it was always one of those things where you just accept it. Was like, that's just what it's going to be. So to get that call, in 2022 saying we're buying the university club and it's going to be the Albany Black Chamber. What? How?
Yeah.
Who's allowing that? Right? Like, literally, what's the, and so to hear that this particular region was, and there are players here that were truly invested, who understood that investment into DEI business is the movement of the future, was gratifying for me, because if you just get it, then that's half the battle. Then we can work through how it gets done. But if you get it, then I at least know we're starting on the same page of the same book. And I think, so often we see things where we know that they're just checking the boxes. I wanted this to be that thing where it would beyond that, and that, we took whatever opportunity we could and to plant roots here so that we could have just as lengthy, of a history as the University Club did here, and be a hub for Black entrepreneurs, but really just the business community of the capital region. Albany is the capital of New York, right? New York City is, I love New York. I think it's a wonder of the world. I am biased, duh. But Albany, though, is often just kind of overlooked. And for us to, just a block from here is where the most important decisions about our state that influences the entire country is made. And, we shouldn't take that platform lightly. And I want to make sure that Black and minority owners are on the platform, or at least have a platform and on the roster when, in 15 years from now. So.
Okay. Yeah. I have to ask this before I ask my next question. How much of your experience working under different administrations has been your experience in Atlanta? How much of that has rubbed off on you in a way that you have brought that back? Are there any remnants of your experiences? Because, like I said, you mentioned some heavy hitters that you worked underneath, but how have those prior experiences helped to sharpen you for where you are currently?
Well, one, I mean, simply put, it showed me that it was possible. I think a lot of times we're often stifled because we haven't seen it done. And so in an environment like this, if you haven't seen anyone that looked like you do it, you just automatically think, well, that is the bar or the standard, or as far as they will allow me. And so without having to see those type of restrictions where we could be, it changed everything. Because, you walk in a room belonging, you walk in a room making sure you knew your information, you knew the data, you were well prepared, right? I give credit to, honestly, my time at Albany High School. It gets a very mixed review these days, I hear, but that trained me to be able to withstand anything. You're an independent contractor as a student and an employee. I think working for a school district, especially of a school at that time that was so large, but it gave me so much access. Like I had access to all of the colleges here through an explorations program. I had some of the best instructors. I kind of knew how to use that for my good. But I also had the same distractions, you know, as many of my peers, which was gangs, drugs, and pregnancy. You know, all of those things were around, but there were certainly outlets available. But unfortunately, it goes back to answer an earlier question, and I'll get back to the direct experience I got. But it goes back to earlier when you and I were kind of talking offline about there's so much shifting in terms of the crime, but a lot of what we need to do in terms of a response to that is change the economic landscape, right? If you incentivize youth to be active, you give them something actually to do, right? Yes, they want to go, you know, yes, there are programs that will train them, but if 6 weeks they have to be in that for 40 hours and they can't feed their families, they can't help their mom and dad, it's easier to make a choice that's going to, you know, prevent your family being in dire straits. But if you incentivize them to get the trade and they get a stipend, well, perhaps we can, you know, persuade them. And if you show them successful Black owners in these industries, well, drugs is not going to look that appealing, or, you know, gang activity is just not going to be, they're going to look at, oh, I could probably live an extra 20 years if I just, you know, old boy is doing it over there, right? You know, and so you begin to, that is what shifts, not, you know, a one-time donation of this to get t-shirts, right? That's fine and dandy in context, but we have to kind of take a macro look at the particular investment, how we're making that. And I think that is what has allowed me to bring that type of knowledge here, because I've seen it at an executive level over a city. And I've seen it in every industry, whether it is government and politics, whether it is in entertainment. I've also had the opportunity under those leaderships to work with the entertainment industry and the entertainment business industry. And then, you know, launching my own businesses. While I worked full time, I had the flexibility to, you know, take on other ventures that I was passionate about, whether it was interior design, but just understanding kind of the commercial world in that way. So my exposure and just the access to information is really what allowed me, I think, for it to be a great stepping stone to this, right? And just that exposure and outlet that I'll be able to bring now to this region, which historically hasn't seen it. And so I think generally that is what I'm able to bring. And then more specifically, kind of the being able to set the tone of the standard, what is expected. You know, oftentimes, I am the only CEO female of color in a room. And so, and it's alarming because I've never been the only in rooms, right? So it's like, oh, what everyone's saying is actually true. Like, where are the other, you know? And even at this level, even with all my understanding, it's still one of those like, oh, but I think it's the pressure of knowing that equips me to be prepared, equips me to be able to, you know, have the information and provide that much more of a introspective look, because you will have very similar ideas in a room, and these are the decision makers for what's happening in our community. And it's like, well, I think if we look at it from this perspective, you may see it differently. And just being able to have that type of access under the administrations, and be it, you know, government or even in my own business, having that type of access and being able to speak up then has really propelled me in these rooms now, because I think it's, you know, shifted conversation on what's actually needed versus what we think should happen.
Absolutely. Okay. Let me see. I know you. I know you did mention that, you know, you used to walk past the current building that you're currently the CEO of. Was this something you always envisioned for yourself? Are you? And that's not to say you're complacent right here, but you know, was this ultimately a vision that you have for yourself, that you're getting a chance to not only fulfill being in the building, but in the overall capital region as a whole? Was this something you always wanted?
No. Full transparency. Here's the thing: when as a kid, I never when I got asked that, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always said the best that I can be. I don't think I was meant to do one thing. I think God has given me many talents. And my goal is to just reach the height of all of them, right? Whatever he gives me, I want to be able to do, and I want to be able to do it well, right? To say, when I stand in front of him and he say, well done, thy good and faithful servant, I want to know that whatever he gave me, I was able to execute it to my best ability. So I think I'm perpetually growing up. I think this is the phase in my life and the role that I'm supposed to play. But if you would have asked me any time in my life, are you going to be, do you have your sights set on being a Chamber of Commerce leader? I would have been like, I'm sorry, what? Not. But what I will say is this is the exact work that I want to do. So if you ask me in that regard, absolutely. I think I'll take on any role that will allow me to give space and platform to businesses of color to be able to, provide access and resources to them. I've always felt like I was the great connector, right? In conversation, I'm like, oh, that's great. I know somebody that can kind of just add to that. I think there is nothing like the vouch and there's nothing like the put on, right? When somebody vouches for you or if somebody puts on to something, it's like, and they become your plug, right? Forever. And so I think that's been my greatest asset and that I provide to others. But it's also how you build community and you build a strong foundation. So yeah, I can't say specifically that a chamber leader was what I want, but this exact work of being able to enterprise business, create community, certainly is. So.
I love it. I love it. And you just mentioned network, which is something I'm big on, right? And it made me think about how your name first came came to me, and it was just like, so I thank you to social media, but I realized I had two friends that were in the same exact spot that I'm like, well, you guys need to meet each other. You're both bosses, you're both doing great things. You guys need to meet each other. And at the same time, a mutual friend that we all have, Kev, shout out to my man Kev Johnson at the Palace. But Kev was just like, I ended up sending a message to one of the same people. So guess what? And just to hear that the three of you guys ended up getting together, like when you talk about that networking piece, and it's like when it comes on, like when your plug is an authentic person, or like, hey, if Ty's telling me I need to meet this person, let me make some time to meet him. Or if Kev's telling me I need to meet this person, let me make some time. And you guys did it, and I was just like ecstatic. It's crazy because sometimes you got to go outside of places. You got to be in a place that
you do.
None of you guys are from, but we're still able to come together and make it happen. But networking is an important part
too. Thank you for that connection. I didn't even realize that you were behind that connection, so that's cool.
Oh, so I thought they told me because I spoke to two of them, Charlene and Sheena. They was telling us, so I was like, oh, okay.
Kevin told me about it, so that's perfect. Okay, but no, I think that's exactly how it's supposed to be, right? And I think what's beautiful about that moment is that we all had a foundational, place, right? We all knew that, and we took whatever our experience was there and whatever our professional experience was to be able to go, out of state and be able to get the information and kind of bring it together and, kind of just shoot our ideas about what could happen next, what the possibilities were. So it was really, really good. And I think that, again, creating that environment and community, it's what's powerful, because there's going to be so much now through the Black Chamber that they'll have access to and have a platform for their businesses. And so, that's the goal.
Yeah, we were at just recently up there to do Marquia's Makings of a Man conference. And so me and Waleer was sitting there talking towards the end of it. And I was just like, and then he starts telling me about what you guys are going to be doing with your membership there at the chamber. And I'm just like, man, Dee needs to connect back with Sheena, because what she's doing over here with Boston While Black and their membership.
It's already done. Yeah, it's already gonna happen. It's already, when I knew she was doing that, I told her about the social club element. She was like, oh, and I'm like, yep, I'm not reinventing the wheel. You're just going to come here and do that. And it'll be great. Yep, I'm a master delegator, honey.
There you go.
Work smart, not hard.
There you go. Let me see, man. I want to ask you a question. And I know that you transitioned, like you said, you were at Clark. Shout out to the HBCUs with Emory. But I always like to ask. But let me go on the record and let you know that I come from the greatest HBCU that ever existed.
The greatest,
Okay,
huh?
yeah, the
Uh-huh.
greatest that ever
It must have
existed.
been Clark too. I don't remember.
It must have been Johnson C. Smith in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm just saying.
Beautiful,
Well,
beautiful. Yeah.
but thinking about the different areas that you've been in, do you give yourself permission to change? If so, why? Or if not, why not?
Absolutely. You've got to be adaptable. I'm a sponge, right? Like I take me everywhere I go, but I always leave space to learn a little bit more. I think that has been my one of the greatest assets about me. I had a boss one time tell me, you don't make a lot of mistakes, but when you make a mistake, you make a mistake. And I'm one of those ones that's, yeah, and I had to agree with her, like, you're right. She was like, and it's one of those things that always propel me forward, right? I'll make that mistake once, you won't ever have to worry about it happening again. And so I feel like, to think that I have it all or know it all on any part of this journey is reckless, right? I think I bring what it is that I know and what I can add value to, but I always leave this space to be flexible, to be able to adapt, because I don't know every walk of life. I don't know every experience. I just know mine. And so I can add value, and I can always, leave space to learn.
Okay, all right. Thinking about um, sticking right there with always giving yourself space to learn, space to grow. Um, what is it that motivates you? Like, I always like, because I'm a person, I like to read up on people. I like to read books. Right now, I'm finishing up Michelle Obama's The Light We Carry. I'm big on motivation, but what is it that motivates you, D, to keep you going forward? What is it that gives you your inspiration? And do you find it a stressful to set goals, or is it just something that comes natural to you and it's no additional stress?
No, goal setting has always been normal for me. I've always been an ambitious kid, ambitious person. I think, a lot of it has to do with just my upbringing. My father was in the school district. He just retired after 30 years. My grandmother was a kindergarten and first grade teacher, primarily kindergarten, for about 40 years. She's retired. She's been retired for some time. So education was super important. My biological dad went to school upstate Hobart College up in Geneva. And my mom attended, where'd she go? Buff State, until her and my dad got pregnant with me. And my bonus dad, he's an upstate guy too. He's from Albany, New York. He went to Albany. My father now is on a record. I think he has 11 separate degrees. Yeah.
What?
So education was always something that was important to me, and always a forefront, and at the forefront of anything, right? You can do anything in the world, you can, go anywhere, but don't ever, put this on the back burner. Like the education is going to be your tool. So for me, understanding that, knowing that was going to be my ticket out, beyond taking that serious, there's nothing that separated me from any of my peers, right? And of course, I had wonderful parents, a beautiful blended family, and that type of support completely changed your trajectory. So I had a bunch of investment put into me that I don't think the average, kid had, right? Most of, it is true that there are a lot of fatherless, homes, but it is also true that a lot of fathers are involved, right? My cousins grew up with their dad. A lot of my peers did too. I had the luxury of having my biological father and my bonus dad be a part of my life, my entire life, for the most part. And so having that type of investment put into you, and limitless, right? If I wanted to do this club, they found a way. If I wanted to go on this excursion out the country, they figured out a way. So when you ask what motivates me or what keeps me, it's the fact that I know that my village has poured into me, and they want a return on their investment. Quite
Facts.
frankly, the whole point, right, is to be able to create an ecosystem so that we invest in you so that you can go out and bring that information back. And so that can then do the same for, the generations to come. And every time you go back, try to, get a few more, right? And so I think for me as the eldest sibling of my brothers and sisters and eldest child, I should say, and the just the investment that's been poured into me and my, understanding my history. My grandmother was a I won't say just a Barnes and Noble, but she was a book lady, right? So anytime I was with grandma, we went to Barnes and Noble or we went to some bookstore. So she was adamant about me knowing my culture and my history, and knowing, that the stacks as a Black woman would be against me almost always, but that I could do anything. And I had to know that, right? I couldn't rely or wait for anybody to tell me. I had to know it and I had to pursue it. So that is what keeps me up at night, right? Is being able to make them proud. And I know that, my choices have certainly done that. But not just them proud, but to be able to change their station in life forever, yes. Right? And for all of the generations to come to know that truly the color of your skin should not be the determining factor of how successful you will be in this life. So any way I can, be a part of pushing that needle forward in that direction is what I'm trying to do. So those are, just those simple, motivators. And quite frankly, I'm very hard on myself. So if I set a goal, I gotta meet it just quite naturally. I'm not big on competition with other people. I'm only in competition with myself and who I used to be and what I was yesterday. And so that just naturally keeps me going. And so
I like it. I like it. And I like that it's built on education, right? I think a lot of people miscalculate if we're talking in terms of investments. You miscalculate the return on your investment with education. Education is a form of currency, right? Absolutely. And it changed my life. It changed my life. I mean, I think for a long time I ran from the notion of me being a nerd because I always loved learning. Yeah. Because in the hood you don't get what is it? You don't get points or you're not the most popular because you are you're literate, you're smart, right? You get all your kudos for doing all of the wrong things, right? But at my core, I've always been addicted to learning, and I'm the same way now. So when you said your grandmother always brought you to Barnes and Nobles, my kids hate when I go out because sometimes I go meet up with a friend of mine from Albany who lives down here in the DC metro area now too, and we always get together at a library. Yeah. Right. So I always come home or either a library or a bookstore. So my sons always be like, "Oh, what you bring home, Dad? More books?" Yep. That's more books for you.
That's it. That's the foundation. If they take things out of the books, the world would be dead, right? And so, or if you want to hide it, right, put it in there because it's just become this dying thing. But that is the plug. That's the access to so much. And I think for so long in our community, it's been seen as a linear thing, right? In order to be they look at it, if I get education, it's all about the grade. And while that is important, really, it's just all about the access to information. I can't tell you that I was a straight A student because I wasn't, right? Did I make A's? Absolutely, right? Did I have a higher GPA? Yes. But compared to some of the smartest people in my class, Black, white, or otherwise, I was, maybe top 12, you know what I'm saying? But what I think propelled me is that I was always eager to learn, always eager to kind of get that information. And I think because I knew that at least having that information to rely on at that moment or later, and that was either managing the test or managing whatever, but to be able to get to the next was really important. And that's been devalued for one reason or the other in our education system. So it's really just about understanding information as access.
The more and it's tough. Know. It's tough because like I said, going back to this the perception of education. Yeah. Right. And it's just like, I think if I if I'm too smart, people are gonna say I'm white or I'm trying to
Yeah.
act different. And it's just
Yeah.
like, the more I've learned to change the perception of what we consider to be real, what I
Yeah.
mean, the more you have a thriving life, the more you have a future. All of the things that they've told us to act, or the way that they've told us to be real, hasn't really gotten us anywhere. So it's up to us to change that perception and to change the realities for everybody else that's coming up behind us. So that way you say, hey, you know what? There's a space for you to just creatively be who you are.
Absolutely. I agree.
You
I
don't have
couldn't.
to go this lane. So
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree.
yeah. Well, let me see. I'm going to hit you with a rapid fire question.
All right. Let's
So
go for it.
because I've been heavy on content with you, and I want to get a chance to understand a little bit more about you. So I have a 60-second a session that I call rapid fire, and it'll give me a chance and our audience to know a little bit more about you. You ready? And
Yep.
I can't respond, so
All
60
right.
seconds is what you got.
All right.
All
All
right.
right.
First question is, what's your favorite food that you like to eat or snack?
Ooh, snack will have to be Honey Crisp apples with peanut butter. It's my favorite snack right now, or last couple of years. Food, spaghetti.
Okay.
I'm a black
Okay.
Italian.
Okay. Okay. Do you like rice cakes too?
I do like rice cakes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Why you ask that?
I'm going to go on to the next one.
I love
Uh,
rice cake, especially if it got a little honey on it. Oh my God.
soon as you said what you liked, I knew rice cakes was in there.
Was
I
in
knew it. I
My
knew it.
mother, it's funny. My mother used to always visit me in Atlanta, and she says, "Before we go to your house, let's go to the grocery store because I don't want none of them Stella bricks and whatever it is you eat. These
Facts.
old people snacks. I got all the old people snacks. I love it."
And my coworker used to be like that. This kid Brian I work with, and that's how I knew you had rice cakes on deck,
Oh,
because
rice cakes, trail mix.
apples and peanut butter.
Yeah,
He's like
I
he's
love
like
it.
Ty, you gotta try the rice cakes. I said, if you don't get this out my face,
I mean,
Brian.
and that is my snack. I love it.
Let me see. Favorite actor. If you were to choose an actor, actress, who's your favorite?
So that's my background. That's what I'm most known for out here, actually. My favorite, I have quite a few. But a person that I really enjoy is Don Cheadle.
Mm.
Don Cheadle is really transformative to me. Um, I really love his work. And female favorite, ooh, that's tough. Ooh, this gonna be okay. So this is not gonna be. Maybe I shouldn't say it. Maybe I should. I'm gonna hold
You
that.
can't go wrong.
I'm not gonna roll Don Cheadle. Final answer.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let me see. If you were to say, what is your biggest fear? What would you say your biggest fear is?
Failure is got to be the biggest. Meaning, and I look at failure. I don't know if it, objectively, but really setting like a specific goal. And most people are like, oh, you didn't make it, but you did this. I'm like, yeah, but I wanted that, right? Like, so I have to, failure within context, right? I think with my pursuit earlier of creating 100 Black millionaires, if I get 97, I'm gonna be all right, right? Like, so a failure within context for sure, but just not being able to reach my highest height, and to leave and die on this earth empty. That's my, like, I want to, whenever I am called, to have given everything my all. So to not do that, I feel like a huge failure. But I will say, yeah, that's my biggest
Okay.
fear.
Okay. Favorite actor, excuse me, favorite sneaker of all time. I'm not sure if you're a sneakerhead or not, but I am.
I did not become a sneakerhead until later on in life, like much later. I had sneakers growing up, but I had true middle class parents in the sense of like they were conservative with their spending. So like, I had a lot of clothes, but they were Salvation Army and Caldor. Okay. Layaway, right? Like, so we were certainly the secondhand household. And my mother made sure we made everything look good. But there were like name brand things, but we weren't, huge on that. So I didn't have my time with that. I was a Timberland girl though.
Okay. Okay.
Stay with a fresh pair of butters. I get one every season. But now, as someone who is more interested in sneakers, I'm an Air Max girl, Air Max 95.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see that. Can't go wrong with Air Max. Last question. Rapid fire. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
One of the countries in Africa, for sure. That's my next stop after here, is to have some time where I start my family and raise them on the continent. It's really important to me. I've yet to decide which country it'll be, but I do have some trips planned out to make that determination in the next few years. So yeah, definitely going home, baby.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for indulging me in the quick session of rapid fire. I have to throw a plug out there for Morocco if you go into Africa.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty close to Spain. So you can go to Spain, you can take a little boat ride, go back and forth from Morocco, but and still get that experience.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of trade and commerce. A convention I went to last year, Morocco had a whole spotlight. So you might be on to something.
Listen, man, Morocco's kind of dope, man. Morocco's kind of dope. Well, let me see. This is probably one of my favorite questions I ask everybody from all 4 seasons.
Okay.
If you were to define success, D, how would you define success for you?
Ooh, that's a big one. Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but for me, it's going to be whenever that fateful day comes, knowing that I've done what I was supposed to do with what I was given. That is when I know, and unfortunately, because I don't know how that will, happen. Not to sound morbid, but I just want to, that's the driving force that keeps me going hard each and every day, knowing that I gave it my all. So that, and honestly, just knowing that wherever I leave, I've created a standard of operation, right? A standard of excellence that will be revered and be duplicated far beyond my physical presence. That's success. I think, we can look at the tangible things as those markers, but I try not to, because those things can be swiftly gone. And so it has to be rooted in something deeper. And for me is knowing that my little cousin or my children or my children's children will be able to be in an organization, and something that I've done in my career or in my life had set the standard for, how they will be treated, how they would be seen, and the access that they will have. So for me, that's what success looks like.
Okay. And you made me think about something when you were doing rapid fire, when you talked about failure, right? It resonated with me because for a large part of my life, I think that was my answer too. And I think it was more so that, not using my God-given talents, right? And I think that would be my greatest fear, right? Just like, hey, knowing that God gave me something to do, and like Jonah, I was running the opposite way and saying, I'm not doing this, I'm not going. But so like just walking into that and realizing, like what you said, it's bigger than yourself. It's the foundation, the legacy you're gonna leave for everyone else that's coming behind you. I like it.
Absolutely. What I didn't add was my second biggest fear. It was my first one, but I wanted to feel, like really special and important. But my biggest fear is falling and losing my teeth, Tyrell.
Oh my gosh.
So when you see me walking gingerly, it's because I am visualizing a face down with no teeth. That's the one thing I never want to happen. And I'm always like, oh my goodness. So that along with, it keeps me up
Look,
at
look, look.
night.
She said, I was too scared to say the first one because you were like, it's too vain. No, no, that's a real one.
Yes.
That is a real
Sharing
one.
these key thought is always what keeps me stepping nice and gingerly. But
Let me
yeah.
see. I got two more questions for you. I'm gonna let you
All
go.
right. Let's go.
With everything that you're juggling at this particular point in time, how do you keep a healthy work-life balance?
I don't believe in balance.
Explain this one.
That's how it stays healthy, is that everything has its place. And I think I have been privileged to be able to have a family that understands me, who loves me and supports me. What I am learning is how to just prioritize better. So I have been trying to be more intentional about making sure I designate, specific family time, right? These phones, this thing went off 18 times in this 1 hour. And so they rule our lives and you can get caught up. And so I'm trying to be far more intentional, especially now that I'm back home. I'm in the presence of my family on a day-to-day basis. I have a partner who we both work, long hours. And so when I am with them, I try. I'm not always successful,
Fair
but
enough.
to be intentional about dedicating that, that time with them. I'm doing better at my scheduling, right? And so if I say this is the day that I'm not, then this is the day that I'm not, right? And just having a hard line, with the exception of any type of emergency, of course. But I believe that prioritizing is the balance, but to try to truly balance in the way that I think people say is difficult, because, when you have a responsibility like this, it's ongoing, right? There is no, doesn't turn off, I leave here and I take my laptop at home and then I work 5 to 9, so like it's kind of, but that for me is my working style. Like that is, when it comes on me, when I have it, I have to do it. And so, my family knows me, they love me and they support me and they understand that part about me. But as you, get older and wiser, you want to just prioritize. But balance, it doesn't, you have to, as a Black woman, we do all the things all the time. So
Absolutely.
it's just par for the course. You just figure out where it fits on the wheel and you just do it. So
Honestly, your answers sounded pretty balanced. And that's not to
okay,
throw
well,
you
good.
back in the not to throw you back in the balance part if you don't want to be there, but prioritization is a huge part of balancing,
Yeah.
right? And just like you said, being present in the moment where I'm at, and it's especially with the invention of phones,
Mm-hmm.
it's an everyday struggle for all of us. But I think the prioritization piece has everything to do with balance, and you realizing that there is an important skill.
Yeah.
My family, my spouse, my work.
Yeah.
Me. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I just need time for me, and
Yeah.
one of the things I know we said offline is like I'm a huge advocate for is like therapy.
Yeah.
A lot of things that people never talk about anymore or used to, but now we can. We talk about therapy. We talk about finances. Shout out to Earn Your Leisure. You know what I mean? But everyone's talking about these spaces now, and
Yeah.
a lot of it for me boils down to being able to have a good balance. Have a good balance in my regular career. Have a good balance in my self-employment career. Be a good spouse. Be a good dad. Be a good community advocate. How do I still help out in Albany and I live in DC?
Right. Right. Right.
Balance.
Yeah.
You find time, and everything that you said in your answer, it sounded pretty balanced to me, D.
Okay,
It
well,
did.
good.
So
Good.
yeah.
Good. I answered it still right on.
And
Yeah.
let me say, thinking about what you've done thus far, uh, uh, and thinking about what you've done thus far at this point in your life, what about your life's path are you most proud of?
That I'm consistent.
Mm.
Um, that I do what I say I'm gonna do. That's it. I think so often, you get bogged down in, whatever it was, even if it was for a time, I've completed that course, or I saw it through, or whatever the specific goal was, or even if I haven't seen it through yet, it's still on my roster to get done. Like I'm consistently committed to growing, learning, and evolving. And I understand that that's going to be, new versions of me each time, but I still will take me, my true core and essence. and moral compass wherever I go. And so my consistency and seeking that and responding to that and letting that be, the marker of how I make my choices and decisions, is it for me. So.
Okay. All right. Well, there we have it. We have it from Deshanna C. Wiggins herself, CEO of the Albany Black Chamber of Commerce and Social Club. Like I said, D, I knew from last season that I wanted you on for various reasons, but one, I've been very impressed with everything that I've heard about you. I've been very impressed with what it is that I see that you're doing, and I wish you continued success, not only in what you're doing in the capital region, because as you said, it's not just local, it's national of how you think, it's international of how you think. You're thinking about starting a family outside the country, so it's got to be international, right? But I really just want to say thank you for being you. Thank you for being a guide and a resource and an example that we could follow. Thank you for, as LeBron said, he brought his talents to South Beach. Thank you for bringing your talents back to Albany, New York.
Yeah. That's what I'm hoping will shift. There's a lot of talented people from this area, as I know who live elsewhere and have started their lives, and they, haven't been quite sold on, like, why are you going back home, right? And it's just because they can't see their living existence in a space like. And so everything that I'm doing is hopefully working to shift that, so they can see that home is a place we can set our roots again, and build our beautiful family. So. Yeah,
Albany will always be home for me, man. I still got a house there, so I'm always there.
Yes, I'm trying to acquire my family home too, so that's on the agenda. Yeah, that's right.
There you go. There you go.
That's right.
Well, tell the people how they could follow you, how they can follow you, how they can follow the Albany Black Chamber of Commerce. How do we find you on social media? Because social media is a very valuable tool. I'll make sure I add it, but let us know where we can find you at.
Perfect. Well, you can find me at DWiggs, DEEWIGS, on Instagram. But the Albany Black Chamber is where you'll likely get most of the information on what's happening at the chamber. And that you can find that on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook at Albany Black Chamber of Commerce. We are based out of Albany, New York, but we represent the greater capital region, which is Albany, Schenectady, and Troy.
All right. And I'll be sure to add the links to each of those places when I post this today. But thank you again. Thank you for affording me your time. And I'll play catch up with you next time.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
Later. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Keep climbing up the ladder. Black lives matter. They matter. So all you young people, give me all. 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 Matter. Black lives matter. They matter. Black lives matter.